Us down.
Hello, viewer. How are you doing? It's Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben. We're doing this on a lunchtime. I've just had a bacon sarnie. Ben's just, I don't know what Ben's just been doing. I was switching his lights on with his fingers. Yeah, we thought we'd just hit the button randomly and talk randomly.
Well, we were discussing Paul Weller, weren't we? We were saying that
We got onto Paul Weller because you looked at another list of 1995.
I was looking at albums from 1995, and I always thought that Stanley Road came out in '96. I don't know why. It's a false memory lodged in the brain from somewhere.
I think it was quite a popular album in 90. Did it come out towards the end of 95?
Let's have a look. Shall we have a look?
It was still a popular album in 96.
May 95.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was, recorded at Manor Studios. So, because I always thought Changing Man, I'm convinced that came out in '96, but then again, I did say that I thought You Do Something to Me came out in '93. So, what do I know, Phil? So I obviously have no concept at all on date or time as a concept. But yeah, I must admit, I don't listen to as much Paul Weller as I should do. I've been listening to the documentary podcast series about his new album on the Tube of You, and I listened to his new album 66, and it's really, really good. And I do have Paul Weller. I don't have any Style Council, and but the more I listen to Paul Weller's stuff, the more I think, you know, when there's bands that you think, I should listen more to you, but I never do. Because I'm too busy listening to Picture This by Wet, Wet, Wet. Is there something wrong in my genetic makeup that I have dedicated a couple of hours over the last month listening to Picture This by Wet, Wet, Wet and have completely ignored one of the greatest songwriters of our generation?
Well, I must admit, I've never had a deep, fandom of Paul Weller. Nothing against him.
No.
But I've never, I don't know why that is.
See, we should like him. We like Oasis and that Britpop movement. And he is one of the founding fathers of that whole...
He's a founding Yeah, I mean, is it because my musical roots generally, my bread and butter is American, and anything sort of rooted in American, whether it's blues, jazz, country, rock and roll, I'm a bit of an old school Americana kind of person.
Yeah. You're not into K-pop, are you?
Not to say that I don't like British music as well, but I guess maybe if Paul Weller was an American, if he was like Bruce Springsteen or Neil Young, who's not actually American, is he Canadian? But you know what I mean? If he was an American artist, I might have paid more attention to him.
Possibly,
maybe got into him more. But
I mean, were you a fan of the Jam? Because obviously you're a little bit older than me, but I mean, even in 1982, was it the Jam split up? 82, 82?
This is the thing. I was only a kid at the time. I was way too young to even have been. Was I even aware of the Jam at the time? I may
not Strawberry and Raspberry.
I may have seen the logo. I wasn't into anything like that as a child. I wasn't exposed to that music as a child. I didn't have anybody in the family that would have played that stuff, so I wasn't aware of. The only up to date music I was aware of was relatively middle of the road by comparison with the Jam. So I'd have been more likely to have heard ABBA than the Jam. So I wasn't, because I wasn't a fan of obviously the people who are fans of the Jam obviously went into, some of them anyway, following Paul Weller. Because I don't have that thing, and I suppose, but then I was too young to remember the Beatles, but then I was still interested in Paul McCartney and John Lennon because of the Beatles. But then I did grow up a little bit with the Beatles, you see. That's the thing. So I didn't really grow up at all with the Jam's music. So that's perhaps why as well. But I've never really listened very much at all to the Style Council. I know that obviously it was probably a bit divisive with the fans because it was nothing like the Jam, was it? So obviously it was. But his solo material is different again. I gather he's been very consistent. I've not listened to many of the albums, only the main, Wildwood, Stanley Road.
Heavy
I've
Soul.
heard bits of Heavy Soul. I never really listened to it properly.
Yeah, Studio 51. I think I remember getting that. I think it's called Studio 51 because I think he covers Oasis's B-side, One Way Road, on it.
Well, I've heard that one. You've sent me that one. I've listened to that, and that was a
Yeah.
good cover. Well, see, I can't fault his music. Like, I obviously can't fault the Jam. I know there are people who are into the Jam who think they're the greatest thing ever. And I guess if you were the right age at the right time, they would have been the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And obviously, probably no other band is going to top them for you because they were exactly right for you at that point in your life. But I've never gone deep back into the Jams stuff either. I suppose it's because I've never really been deeply into that sort of British, what would you call it, sort of late 70s punk or stuff that came right out of punk. I mean, the Jam weren't really a punk band, were they? But they were around at that time, and they were very British and it was all very, lots of attitude and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
I suppose there's something in common with the Clash and all the bands that were around then. But so I've never been massively into those bands. I've never delved into them deeply.
I've got London's Calling. I've never really kind of got the punk sort of. It's just like a headache in a tin. I mean, I appreciate it for what it is, but I couldn't listen to it all day. I'd end up having to walk into a school with a chainsaw or something. But I do like Paul Weller. The more I sort of listen to it, I think, I should listen to more of this. I mean, I've got the True Meanings album, I think from 2018. That's a beautiful album. And he dresses really well as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never really, I think the only thing I've got the Jam is it Snap, the triple disc best of sort of thing, which I think covers everything I need to know about the Jam. But like you say, I don't think you could get into is it possible to get into a band and they be your favorite band if you weren't around during their sort of peak, as it were?
Well, I would list the Beatles and the Rolling Stones as two of my favourite bands, and obviously I wasn't around for their peak.
No. And but I think it's different with the Beatles, isn't it? Because I think the Beatles is almost sort of, it's like one of your five a day, isn't it?
Yeah, I can see what you mean in that regard.
Is there a kid now waking up and going, oh, do you know what? Muse are my favourite ever band. Yeah, they're 8, 9 albums into their career.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I got into REM a little bit into their career, because I wasn't into them when they were a college rock band.
Yeah.
I was a bit late to the party.
You would have gone into them during their sort of
well, they were making
commercial peak, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I remember Out of Time coming out and Automatic for the People. That was the commercial peak. So I was late to the party, really, but I was a fan during the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody waking up today going, do you know what? Coldplay's my favourite band.
I do like the Smiths, and I was never into the Smiths at the time. I wasn't.
Are they your favourite band?
No, not my favourite band necessarily, but they are. I think they were quite unique.
Yes. See, I like the Smiths. Morris's voice was never for me when I was a teenager and stuff, and I would put them in one of my favourite bands, but I wouldn't say they're sort of
the absolute favourite band. I don't know how I have a favourite band. It's very difficult. So I have a few that would probably rotate around.
Yeah, see, the bands I'm more passionate about are the bands that I've sort of grown up with, if you know what I mean. I didn't discover them 10 albums in, so like Oasis, Matchbox 20. I know the New Radicals aren't around anymore, but I'm very passionate about the Beatles and stuff like that as well. But because you come into it late, you kind of, if you get what I mean, you're not sort of, you are invested, but it's not part of your childhood, as it were. It's not part of your fundamental DNA. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it does, because obviously those formative years when
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
really passionate about a band.
yeah,
So I can't think there's many people that were really into a band when they were young, and it was their band, and they were buying the records as they came out, and they were real fans
yeah,
of them. That any group that comes along after that is going to hold a higher place in their affection. It's just probably not going to happen, is it?
yeah, yeah. Which is probably why I've got, even though it pains me to say it, I do have a soft spot for some of that mid-90s awfulness because that's what I grew up with. That was what was on. Took radio when I was down, took pit in took mine. Even though when me and Noah were listening to Now 28 or something the other day, and China Black and Searching, that song came on, and it was just like, oh God, this is awful.
Well, I've mellowed a bit on some 80s pop because you always used to have this thing that I wasn't really into very much 80s pop, but then some of it now I do like more than I did then.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
There's
like the
also
Smiths more than I did then. There is some stuff I think as you get older, don't you? You get a bit more nostalgic for your youth. You kind of, you know, see, I mean, some people might say I've got a rubbish memory, but when it comes to certain songs, I almost know where I was when I was listening to that song. Like, I remember having the radio on and coming down the top of Cunningham Way when it got announced that the Blue Tones and Slight Return was at number 2. I remember that. I remember being in my bedroom when Wonderwall went to number 2. I
because it
remember,
was exciting. Yeah.
yeah, these things are, if like Now 28, I remember being on holiday in Dorset because that's what that, those songs sort of remind me of that sort of period. So, yeah. Well, that has nothing to do with Paul Weller, but it is a good rabbit hole that we've just gone down that, maybe we should appreciate Paul Weller more.
Yeah. Well, one of the YouTubers I follow, Larry, Canadian
Oh,
Studmuffin.
the Laster.
Yeah, Larry the Canadian Studmuffin. He got into Paul Weller. Was it a year or two ago? He
Yeah,
suddenly he suddenly got really into Paul Weller, and he decided to collect all the Paul Weller albums quite quickly.
yeah, yeah,
And he hadn't really really given Paul Weller his due before, and then he became quite a big fan. So it happened quite quickly. But
but it
now,
is
so
a
yeah,
nice feeling, isn't it, when you sort of do find, I suppose, when you find something like that and you do get into them, it is nice having all those albums that you can then go and buy and collect and, you know, have all at once. It's like a box set, isn't it, on TV? Instead of waiting for the episode, wait for the series to end and watch it all in one go.
well, I do think it's quite interesting to get into an artist when they've had a few records out already. They've got a little bit of a catalogue because then
Yeah, yeah,
you've got something to go and explore.
yeah,
Whereas if you're into a band from their first album onwards, you kind of, I suppose, in one way it's good because you're on the journey with them and you
yeah,
can
yeah,
follow it in real time. But then you can also become a little bit disappointed if they slightly change direction or they do something that you didn't like as much as the early stuff, and you can
yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah.
lose interest. But if they're a few albums into their career, they've kind of maybe gone through those things before, and you can
Cherry
maybe
pick.
you don't have to. So you might not have all the expectations and things of these records like you
Yeah.
do when they're coming out. If that makes any sense, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. Because I have rediscovered part of my 1995 journey this week was not listening to a great deal of 1995, which we'll discuss on our 1995 show. Um, but I've rediscovered Badly Drawn Boy this week, and I listened to his album Banana Skin Shoes from 2020, and it's possibly one of the best albums I've ever listened to. I loved it, absolutely loved it. And now it's up here somewhere. It'll be in this column here. Hour of the Bewildered Beast is up here, so that's going to get another listen to. But I need to go back, and I forgot how good Badly Drawn Boy was.
what's his name again? His proper name?
Is it Damon Goff?
That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, was he one of the first artists to have this thing where you're a solo artist, but you go under a name that's like a sort of a brand name, not quite a band name, but a sort of
Yeah.
a brand for yourself, because there's a lot of artists doing this now, aren't there? In the
And
last,
Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds.
well, yeah. Although that sounds, yeah, I suppose that's not. Is Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds a band, or is it the name of what Noel Gallagher does as a solo artist?
I think he said in an interview that I don't know if he said he was near Brixton Academy, but he couldn't see just his name, Noel Gallagher, on the thing. It felt like it had to have something. And I think it comes from a Peter Green song or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
High Flying Birds.
it's kind of like that for him is like a band name that he will just keep, but regardless if the musicians change or whatever.
Yeah. I think the core of his musicians are still, I think he's still got Paul. Is it Paul Starrock, the drummer?
Yeah.
And obviously he's got Gem Archer,
Yeah.
stuff on there. But no, Badly Drawn Boy. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else. I mean, obviously you had rappers and people like that who would have.
Well,
had sort of,
there's a few of these female artists who do it under another name, and I'm trying to, like, female pop, slightly arty singer-songwriter ones who have a name, and I can't
like
think of any.
LaRue.
Is that one of them? That might be one of them. There's
The
other
first
ones.
one that came into my head, LaRue.
Isn't there one? Wasn't there one called Little something? Little Boots. Remember when there was one called Little Boots? That kind of thing. Was she's a solo artist, but instead of going under her name, she makes records under the name Little Boots. But people also know what her
real name is.
And well, the big star in this category is The Weeknd.
Oh yes,
he calls himself The Weeknd, but his real name's Abel something. And the fans know.
Kane.
Yeah, the fans kind of know he's called Abel. They refer to him as Abel, but his brand is The Weeknd.
The Weeknd. Yeah.
Which is kind of odd, isn't it? In a way, you think,
Professor Green.
It's kind of weird. Imagine if Michael Jackson had called himself Monday Morning or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of, that's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, to me, it seems odd because I don't remember a solo artist having a name like that. They're always known by a name that was their real name.
Wasn't there that?
Or a stage name, but it sounded like a person's name, not a band type name.
Yeah, wasn't there that artist who he had he'd been around for a little while. He had very acoustic. It was about 10 years ago. Acoustic, very much a love song. Oh, what was his name? I'm gonna have to have a look. It was from about 2013.
Did he do it under a person type name or a band type name?
Let's have a look. Singles UK 2013. Here we go. Let's have a look. 2013. Oh, Where Are We Now by David Bowie came out. Oh, I remember that was good. I enjoyed that. Let's have a look. John Newman, Sam Bailey, Mumford and Sons, Midnight Mary Bloodline. I will find it. Because it was number one for ages. It was very much a very sort of. It could not be number 2013, but I'll find it, dude. Leave it with me. Leave this one with me. I will find it.
The other one that I'm aware of is Florence and the Machine, because a lot of people perhaps think that refers to her plus the band.
Yeah.
And that the band is called The Machine. But apparently she was it was really a name for her rather than her and a band. So she was always billed as Florence and the Machine, although I think I have seen her billed as Florence Welch on certain collaborations as well. But originally it was, she was going to put out records as Florence and the Machine, regardless of whether she had an actual band that was permanent or not.
Yeah,
so that's another kind of weird
she
one.
Just record with Taylor Swift, hasn't she done a?
Yeah, she has, and I don't know whether she's billed as Florence and the Machine on that. And I presume that she doesn't have her band with her on that. She's just appearing as a solo vocalist on the Swift record.
Yeah.
But I still think it's billed as Taylor Swift featuring Florence and the Machine. I might be wrong about that, but
yeah. I'm very much want to find out what this song was called. And He was just a solo male. I'm going to put male solo artist. UK
What was the
number.
song called?
Oh, it was very much a folky
Know any of the
thing.
lyrics?
It had words.
Chorus?
No.
I mean,
Oh,
I probably won't even have heard this record if it was around in 2013. It was a one-off
I'm
hit.
sure it was 2013.
Was it a big hit that was played everywhere?
Yes, yeah, it was played everywhere.
And it was a one-off guy with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it quite sort of middle of the road pop?
Yeah, yeah, but it had one of those catchy choruses that I can't remember. That got
It's not the one about something about I wasn't expecting that.
no.
It wasn't that one. I've heard that recently. I thought, oh, this is a few years ago.
No. Oh,
It's a song that tells a story, and he keeps on saying, "I wasn't expecting that."
No,
I found it slightly annoying, but I don't know who it was. I heard it on the radio the other day.
I was sure it was 2013. I mean, it could have been 2012. He was just a guy on his own. Apparently, he'd been recording albums for a little while, and yeah, I will find it. I will find it. If it kills me, if this video has to go on for a whole day for me trying to find this song. It was at number one for about 4 or 5 weeks. Oh, Lord, no, it wasn't that. The Monster. I will find it, Philster, if it kills me. Let's go back to 2012, because it could have been 2012. I don't think it was. I have a memory of walking where I used to work and it being on there. Oh, it's going to annoy me. Little minute. No, but God, Gangman Style came out in 2012. Oh, no, I won't take up any more of our time trying to find this, but I will find it. I will find it, and I will be back.
Right, I've got a challenge, which I don't know whether you would help with this, but the viewers might help with this. This was driving me a bit bonkers, and I think I might have found it, but I may be wrong. Okay, because you just mentioned Taylor Swift, and that's set me off on this. Right, there's a song by Taylor Swift, which is one of the most recent ones. It's called "Who's Afraid of Little Old Me," and if you listen to it, the first 8 seconds of it, it's where she sings the first line of the song, and it's the sort of melody that she's singing for this very first line of the song, or first few words of the song. Can't remember what the words are now, but it's the first 8 seconds of the track. That reminds me of, I think it's U2, because I'm sure that makes me think of Bono singing this tune. Something's coming into my head of Bono on this when I hear this little fragment of this tune, and I'm thinking that sounds so much like a part of a U2 song, but I can't think what it is.
It's annoying, isn't it, when that happens?
It's annoying.
Well, I thought the guy's name was something like Foreigner or something like that. It's something like Foreigner, but obviously it's not Foreigner.
No.
I'll have to have a listen to this Taylor Swift, and I'll have to see if I can. I need to find out what this song was called.
Well,
it's going to bug me now.
Yeah, well, it's bugging me. The U2 one's bugging me, so I'm trying to think. But I think it could be not necessarily a well-known U2 song, but a track on an album that I've listened to a lot at one time. But I don't know what I'm just thinking. Is it from the middle of a U2 song? Is it from a chorus? Is it? I can't obviously think it's a chorus. It's a verse.
No,
I think it's only a tiny. It's only a fragment.
Yeah.
It's similar, but it may not. When I go and hear the U2 song, maybe it won't be as similar as I think it is.
Similar, but... yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll come back with a very short video at some point saying, "Oh, we have remembered who this artist was who got the #1 single with his little acoustic melody, and we'll try and work out the Taylor Swift thing."
Yeah.
So what we've come to a conclusion is we can't remember some stuff, and we should remember to listen to Paul Weller more.
That, viewer, is basically the theme of this episode. We've been going for 25 minutes. I think we'll wrap it up there. But thank you for watching.
Be good.
We love it. We love the likes. We love the comments. We even like the shares as well. All the best. Goodbye.
I need to know what this was.